And I got that episode on the Tech or Die. I got to be careful because of the algorithm. But it's about the addictiveness of AI, a Chat GPT, and the way it's being doled out. It's like as if it's like a drug dealer. I don't know how else to say it, but it's like, yeah, take a freebie, take a freebie, take a freebie.
Wow.
First hits on me.
Yeah. Get hooked and then, all right, I need some more. This is integral to my life now. I've already integrated into so many parts. Yeah, small business owners are, especially with it being free, they're like, I'm using this to write ads for my business. And people who you wouldn't think are using this. Like I've been surprised to see people who you wouldn't think would be into using the tool are using it, and like it's just a normal part of life now. Like, wow. It really is crazy how fast this has exploded on the scene, because even a year ago, AI writing tools were okay. They were like getting pretty decent. But just in a year's time, and now we're at Chat GPT level. It's mind blowing.
I got to shout you out for a second. That reminds me, yeah, about a year ago or so, you put me on to AI. You put me on to the Jasper tool, and I heard of article spinners and things like that for SEO purposes, but I had no clue that was a thing. And then when you showed me, I was like, what? This is already a game changer. So yeah, you were ahead of the curve on that. And I feel the same way. I feel that people are, when people use it, first of all, I smile when I see people that I quote didn't expect to use it and they're using it. And at the same time, when I'm talking to people about it and they don't know what it is, and I'm like, oh man, can I show you something? Like,
yeah,
you have 5 minutes? Can I show you something real quick?
Yeah, completely blow your mind real fast.
Yeah, exactly. I took TikTok off my phone, but prior to me taking it off my phone, yeah, when the state government starts banning it from their business phones, gotta go. I probably should have done that a long time ago. But anyway, first things first, TikTok is another very addictive scenario. It's like the most perfectly built social media app I've ever seen in my life. It just locks you in. But part of the TikTok feed that I used to subscribe to was a lot of the AI, the Chat GPT folks on TikTok who used to talk about the different ways you could, use it and flip it. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's a tool, yes, and it can do things for you, yes. But really what it does is it opens up your mind to probe questions and areas that you never thought you could ever get answers to.
Like what? Like, do you have an example?
Like, okay, let's say copywriting, right? So let's say let's say you got like a very technical thing you're trying to convince somebody or make a landing page about a virtual machine. You can have it do the copy and the virtual machine this and the amount of drive space you can have allocated for that. But then at the same time, you're still trying to sell, right? So you can just put modifiers like, okay, now write it for a 15-year-old, and it will just simplify it, and it'll be like, yeah, that's the one that's going to make it to my little 5-second, clip or something like that, because I can't have all that technical, that's just one way. Others is like with the resumes and stuff like that. So, okay, so this is what I do for resumes, and I tell people for resumes and cover letters. So first I go to the job and I say, okay, I copy the job description right up to the part where they talk about, equal employment, or anything that's not like specific to the job.
Right.
Then I take that and I say, Chat GPT, okay, write a cover letter for this. So it does it. Then I turn around and I'll grab like 4 to 8 or maybe 12 bullet points from, like, let's say it's my resume. And I would say, okay, now based off these bullet points, rewrite that cover letter. And now it's like, yeah, as an instructor, I can understand how to explain things to people in the organization about how to set up the virtual, like that gets wove, it weaves it into to the sales letter or to the cover letter, excuse me. Then for the resume, it's a little trickier. This is where I've kind of reached some of its limits. I'm talking specifically about Chat GPT. But for the resume, I might say, okay, based off of this job description, now let's talk about configuring a virtual machine. Create a bullet point for my resume based off of this job description and my current resume. And you have to play around with it a couple of times, but eventually it can create a bullet point that targets that resume and targets that job description. And then you might want to put a modifier that says, pick the keywords from this job description and make that resume bullet point contain those keywords so it can get by the scanner and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. See, that just makes me think, like, is it going to get to a point where it's just how well can you use AI? Like, how well can you just interface with it? I mean, if you can get it to write your resume, write code, write articles, do whatever, then it's not about, are you a writer? Are you a this or that? Can you just use the tool, which is AI now, to give me the output that gives me the money that I need? Like, I'm just hiring you to be the AI manager. I just really feel like that's at least in the immediate future, that's when you're thinking about, okay, how do I survive as a software developer, as a writer, as anything that, plug in that I think AI could eventually replace me as. Right now, it's being the best at curating the best output from the AI, like being able to put in the best input to get the best output from it. I feel like if you can master that at the moment, like that's what that's a valuable skill, until again, it doesn't need you to even do that for you anymore.
Yeah, again, ahead of the curve, curating, that's where we are. We are in, I saw this somewhere else. I wish I can give credit, but we're leaving the quote information age and we're entering the curation age, where we're using tools, these AI powered tools, to kind of cherry pick the best of the best and put together new formula based off of these inputs that could have been generated by a previous AI research. And if you're in this if you're in a knowledge-based role, if you're sitting by a computer all day, basically, right? If you're not using these tools to better your scenario, your personal situation, your professional situation, to be better at your job, to start a side business, or to better your business, you're going to fall behind. It could be really fast too, because again, like I said earlier, if you pull this thing away from me right now, I might go into withdrawal. Like, seriously.
It's become that ingrained in your life at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use it all the time, but when I'm in research mode, or when I'm just trying to understand something from a different perspective, I just go right to it. Like, okay, what do you think about it? Yeah. First time I used it, I had a 45-minute discussion about my business plan. Keyword discussion.
Yeah, back and forth. You're like, I'm talking to an actual logical entity right now. Wow.
Yeah, and that's when I said, okay. And then I started, like those TikToks I was mentioning, I started, watching some of those Chat GPT TikTok heads, and they would say, okay, now this is where you can use it to do this. This is where you can flip it to do that. And when it comes to making money off of it, one of the ways to make money I see a lot of people doing is with Midjourney and DALL-E, these, AI art generators. And there's several ways to do it, but the one way I see people doing it is, okay, so let's say you have an Etsy store, or you can start one based off of this. And in the Etsy store, what you can do is, so you want to search for a design, like a digital wall design, or a design that's digital art. And you want to see what's like selling, right? And you want to find something that's like not too complicated. Maybe it's like a cat sitting on top of a bookcase, and it's a record player, and and there's a record, on the side of the bookcase. And you want to see the ones that are selling like, a lot of sales. So like something like modern or vintage or something like that, one of those tags. You take that picture, literally take a copy of the picture, use that snipping tool. Then you load, you get Discord, you get Midjourney, the Midjourney server bot from Discord, and you add that to your server, and you use that image, you upload it, then you make a quick description: cat, brown cat, top of bookcase, whatever. It'll redo the image and remix it for you, and it'll be similar, but it won't be the same. And then once you have that remix, you could turn around and post a variation of that back on Etsy and be confident that it'll sell because the original sold.
Right. I mean, we might be starting to get circular here, but again, it just, for me, it's like, okay, at some point you might get to the point where like, okay, well, I want there to be, if you really want something that was made by a human, some kind of way to put in verification checks. Like, I want a human created this thing, like that'll mean more to me than just an AI thing that was created in 30 seconds, and some kind of verification way of like, this was made by a human. Like, what if honestly AI makes human created things more valuable in the future? Because again, with AI, you can just whip stuff up so fast. A human taking the time to think about it and putting their own personal spin on it, what if that ends up being worth more and then you can verify it? That'd be a nice, interesting spin in the future.
So the verification, that's actually something I've thought of as well. And I know I'm not the only one. I know we're not the only ones. It's going to be needed because this is not just, Etsy and Midjourney. This is not just, okay, I wrote this, copy for this website and it's very similar to that. We're talking like deep fakes. We're talking, so-called, recordings of someone saying or doing something. And, there's going to have to be some sort of like clearinghouse or some sort of like third-party trusted entity that will officially put the stamp on it. And it's going to get to the point where if you don't see that stamp, it's fake news. Like, just right. It has to get that stamp in order to get out of the fake news category.
Yeah, because you could literally use that to start wars. You could, if you had a convincing enough, deep fake that just showed like a nuke dropping on this place or that, or some terrible thing happening, and you get a whole country riled up. We're gonna go to war right now, and you have no way of verifying it actually happened. Wow, yeah, manipulating the public's heartstrings like that.
Yeah, and with deep fakes, and that's another episode.
I see the rabbit hole forming. I was like, we can go down a whole rabbit hole with that one.
That's another episode, and that technology is so scary. In a way, it's going to return to the past, because it's going to be like, I don't know if they still do it, but when you go to a supermarket and you look to the left and you're on the line to check out, and you see those magazines, and they used to have those old newspapers, magazines or whatever, and it'd be like Ronald Reagan and this alien met at the White
tabloids.
House. Yeah, something like that. Or like, did you know Obama was secretly a part of like the whatever commission and running the world and all that stuff? Like all these like conspiracy level tabloids. Mm-hmm. But you don't like, when I saw him, I was like, okay, who believes that? That's clearly, whatever. That's how everything on the internet is going to have to get treated. If this thing keeps, rising with these deep fakes, we're not going to know what's real from what isn't. And we have to put everything into the can't believe box until otherwise verified.
Yeah. Hey, that could be a job right there. Verification, AI verifier. Now you got a whole crop of people like, well, now let's verify if this is even real. That's a new job right there.
Yeah, so you're gonna lose a lot of jobs, but then you're gonna get some new industries that get created. So, there's one right there. Verify what is or isn't real. Mm-hmm. The other thing about AI for me is, like getting back to a day-to-day level. How can people use AI going forward today to get themselves to the next stage in their life, or to, maybe just get a job or something like that? And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I just think, tightening up that cover letter process, getting those resumes that are somewhat keyword tailored so it can get past the applicant tracking system and actually potentially be seen by someone. Those are great ways to get going. Another way I think people can use, AI is to just start to, take a look at certain jobs and see if there's certain patterns. Like just keep pumping in the job description content, or keep pumping in, what the job is about, and see if there's like a, one or two things that you need to know. And then use it as a perfect excuse to reach out to either the hiring manager or just someone at a company anywhere and just say, hey, I just want to run something by you real quick. Do y'all always, work with, X, Y, and Z technology? Or like, based on my research, I saw that a lot of, administrators in a public sector typically deal with, MS Exchange. Is that true for you too? I'm just trying to, brush up on my skills. Those conversations are how you connect with people. And then you can use AI to kind of, uncover those gems, those little things those patterns, and then use that as excuses to reach out. I mean, really, you don't really have to use AI. You should just do that in general, but at least you'll build up that confidence and that momentum going into those conversations. And then you'll also just understand like what the day in the life of for that role is anyway.
I didn't know. So you're saying you can use AI, like AI tool like Chat GPT, to help you find trends in certain industries, like certain job categories?
So the way I'm sure there's probably a macro way of doing this, but the way I would do it is I would just copy like specifically job descriptions, right? And I would just feed like, 4 or 5 of them, very similar. And then I would just literally say, come up with the pattern of the top 5 things that all of these jobs combined have, that someone looking to become administrator or whatever it is, what are the 5 things based on these jobs, right? And then so you can use it to sift and find patterns and collect things that you don't have to sit there and read and parse out yourself.
Right. Wow. And do it while it's free, however long that is.
and do it while it's free. Yeah. So I already know I'm paying for it, whatever they're charging. So, but again, if you're in a knowledge-based, lifestyle, work environment, you really got to consider, having this as a part of your repertoire, and especially if you're into digital stuff like the Mid-Journey stuff like that as well. That's fun, making the different images and remixing, and I made a couple of pieces of artwork. I might have to put it on this episode, but I made a couple pieces of artwork and I would remix. So the remix is you get that the Mid-Journey bot in your Discord server, and you put 2 images together. So I had like one, it was like Terminator, the other was like Shuri from Black Panther, and then it just kind of morphed them together. And with the right, description, it was like Shuri as a Terminator or something like that, and it kind of looked like her and everything. It was, I'll show you in a second, but I use that for fun and creativity. But I'm sure Fiverr, Upwork, a lot of things can, you can do a lot now with that.
Yeah, you probably just make logos, any type of graphic design gigs or anything like that. Yeah. I'm telling you, revolutionizing for the little people until the big people snatch it up and sell it to you for an exorbitant price.
Yeah, that's always a thing, So AI. So we got to continue this conversation. I do want to get more into that UBI talk. See if that's like something that can possibly go down, or will it go down, or when it will go down. I do also want to get into more ways that AI can help. How AI is impacting the career choice of pursuing software development or being a software engineer. I feel like there's something else there where we need to kind of, is that something that people should be doing basically? Like, when I talk to them, like, I don't know, I talk to them about, future careers and stuff like that. And now I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, do I want to push them towards a technical role like that? Something that's already got a replacement lined up, ready to go in stage 1, right? Or do I need to be thinking ahead of the curve? Like, okay, what are some other options that AI can't tackle in their next 30 to 40 years?
Mm, that's a good question. I mean, I think right in the, again, because you can't really see how things are going to specifically play out because there are so many roles that exist now that didn't exist even 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, especially not 20 years ago. It's like, mobile developer, what's that? Like you have mobile phones. So yeah, who knows what jobs will be, new jobs there will be in the future. But I think right now is it's getting them comfortable with interfacing with AI. It's just getting them understanding how it works, how, like, what type of input is good to put into it, how to look at the input that comes out. And then I think maybe just naturally from there, things just start getting figured out. But yeah, I mean, I remember you had sent me the article where it shows that, possibly by the year 2040, software developers will be fully replaced. So in light of that kind of even if it's not on that specific time frame, just the thought that that could happen, yeah, it's like, should you go into software development? I don't know.
I don't know. This is like becoming a newspaper writer in 2005. I don't know.
Right.
Is that where we are right now? So you're gonna hear, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure those watching will hear and see that a lot of people are pushing back and saying, AI can't do this and it can't do that. And I agree, it probably can't do that right now.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you can't be concerned about what it can do 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So I'm looking at those, those areas a little sideways, and you might have to make a return to the physical world and put yourself, in a scenario where you can do things on a physical level that just can't be, outsourced to a machine yet, as of today.
Yeah.
But yeah, the robots are there too. They got robots and I just spoke to this guy from UPS, and he works at a facility about 10, 15 miles south from here. And prior to that, I'd been to that facility, but they didn't have robots at that time. But he mentioned it, that they have them now, and they have them in a smart hub. And, so even that, it might be time for UBI. I think it's time to have that conversation for real.
I was like, I see where this is leading us. I mean, yeah, it's I mean, UBI, but then what is my question? I feel like UBI is going to be the Band-Aid, kind of just the bridge in between where we are now and then what we don't really know what's going to come after that. We can't really see that far. We haven't envisioned, okay, what do we do with all these people? So UBI is just going to be that Band-Aid until we figure out, okay, kind of our collective value and our ethical system as humans. Just, I really think it's going to require a whole retooling, and that's going to require a massive amount of effort. It's going to get uncomfortable.
It's also going to require, all of that is totally possible, except for one thing. It's going to require, under that effort category, the will to do it. And that's always the thing that's going to make or break any type of change. The will to do it, the will to stomach it. And you're going to have a lot of people that, for whatever reason, capital, financial, some sort of, ethical tie-in or something like that, they're not going to want to, address it with UBI plus. At most, maybe UBI is, the Band-Aid that they're comfortable with. And, getting that political willpower to make UBI plus something else, I think that's going to be the question that, I just don't see it being answered favorably based on how the world works. So right now, the best you can do from an individual perspective is to, get cracking with this AI and see, how you can use it to better yourself, better your life. And at the same time, start to plan for the future, plan alternate routes. And you need to start to, really turn the volume up and, stack more chips, basically. This is offense. And, defense is only going to take you so far. Now it's time to run up the score.
Yeah. I was about to say, when you said stack the chips, I was like, yep, start saving and get to where you can just own things outright so that you can just get off the hamster wheel as soon as you can anyways.
Which should be the goal either way, but this has turned the volume up, and it's made it even more important, and especially with inflation and everything that's going on. the message, if you haven't, figured it out, is, everything has to get turned up. They're going to turn it up. You have to turn it up the other way as well, too. So, yeah, so awesome. Thank you for stopping by, Ebony. Again, we made it happen again. Tech or Die is doing his thing.
Yeah. It's always fun. I love these conversations.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you, Ebony, for all your amazing insights and contributions to the show. Make sure you check out Ebony with our other conversations like how will AI impact everyone and how gas station credit card scams work. Thanks for listening and watching Tech or Die. If you haven't already, subscribe to Tech or Die and share this episode with your people so they can learn too.